Hey everyone, welcome back. Today what we have for you, it's pretty neat reassembly. We've already taken apart our Ellis dividing head and we're going to put it back together. We've already talked a lot about using it as a tool in your shop as a dividing head and how it's used to make gears, etc. But what's on the inside and what makes it tick is in fact a pair of gears, crossed axis gears, worm gears. So we're going to put all this back together and show you how the gearbox was designed, some design elements that are neat, and give you some ideas about how gear cases are made that allow for some loose tolerance. Check it out. So let's examine some worm and worm gear sets out of equipment that you probably have in your shop or something like it. A lot of dividing heads, indexing heads, different types of dials on machinery has a worm and a worm gear. So they are non-parallel axis gears. The other shaft goes right here, and that's how they work. You turn this shaft here on the worm, and in the machine it turns this. So let's look at it a little more carefully. When you look at worms, or any threaded item for that matter, when you look at it this way, you can tell this is a single start worm. There's only one thread groove going through there. If it was a double or single or triple start, you might see something a little different. This worm and this worm gear have a very interesting set of geometry. Let's examine it and see what it is. First of all, let's measure the face of this worm gear, and it's 3/4 of an inch, and it's got an inside diameter of 1.5. It's got a 1/4 inch keyway in it. The worm is it's a 1-inch OD worm, and it's about 1.2 inches long overall. The net thread part is a little bit less than that, maybe an inch or so. And these need to be held in a gear case, obviously, so that these mesh in this manner. But what are the gear parameters? In this case, I'm just going to use a template gauge. And this is a 16 diametral pitch gear, worm gear, and this is a 16 diametral pitch worm, and they're at their 14.5 degree pressure angle. I'm gonna move this around. I'm not sure what the camera's gonna see with something like that. And they both have the same diametral pitch. It's got this indentation here, and that's so that the worm gear, the threads only go so deep so it can fully engage and mate those teeth there. And when we count them, single start, and I counted the teeth here, and this is a 40 tooth worm gear. So here's all the final parameters for this gear. Both of them share the pitch and the pressure angle. The worm is a 1-start worm, mounts on a shaft with a slip frit going through that other piece. The worm gear is throated, has these physical parameters, 40 tooth count, and it's mounted on a tube with a keyway. Let's put this thing back together and you'll see how it works. Let's look at this next piece by itself. This is really where all the magic happens. This is the cavity that holds the shaft, this big shaft. You can see a little place for oiling right here. All right. This is for a brake, these two ports. Again, the bottom is ground nicely so it'll spin in this swivel base that we just put together. And then there's a really interesting way that they chose to put the worm gear assembly in here. And this is how it will go in here in a minute. But it allows us to swivel and basically adjust the backlash on the worm gear. So really there's one precision bore. If you break it down to just how to hold the gear, there's one precision bore, and then there's a pin that goes in here, and your worm gear sits in here, and there's a pretty simple adjustment mechanism to set your backlash. So it's quite simple actually to have this machined. You can see the machine marks, I think, right here. You can see where this big cut was, fly cutter or something. All right, on both sides you can see how that cut into the cavity to make it true, and then just deck this top. So this is what holds it all together. This is the magic. And this is the board that's going to fit in our fixture, and it's just on center with this bore. So it's on center with this one, so that when you rotate this, it's around its axis in the very middle. And the label's a little hard to see, but it says Ellis Dividing Head, Alhambra, California, and I think the serial number is A568. And it's stamped here again too. These are some oiling ports, and they oil basically this is a big steel on steel bushed surface that the worm wheel rides in, and it is just oiled. All right. So here's a magic piece. Let's put it in our fixture here. And good. All right, so we're put together. So it's looking good, but and we know how this fits. But let's put our worm gear in. How does this go into the machine? So you see this in all worm gear boxes. There's always a big slot so the worm gear can fit in. All right. Otherwise, this cavity for the worm gear needs to be enormous. All right. Now, bronze is what almost all these worm gears are made out of, some form of bronze, phosphor bronze, manganese bronze, C954, a couple of different alloys. And it's a very expensive material, so buying it in a tube with the ID already in it, or something close to your net shape, allows you to buy a lot less bronze and put it on a tube. And that also allows you to have this device so that it's got a through hole in it. Makes it more useful. All right, so this is how this central bore works. There's this shaft, which is also a tube that has a keyway on it, 1/4 inch keyway, kind of big, but your bronze is a lot softer than this steel, so you need some purchase area for strength. So this goes in the cavity of the machine. This comes in from one side, and it presses all the way up to here. You can see where the witness marks are, sort of where this gear used to ride for most of its life. And then this side presses on, Also, from this side, the gear will stay in there, but you can see this slot is for the keyway. And what this does is it sandwiches the worm gear perfectly where you want it in the machine, and it rides on all these shoulders so that it stays centered in the casting housing. Awesome. All right, so let's press that back on. Now, I've seen a lot of really fantastic machining on YouTube and around Instagram, and I've seen this done in, you know, much less precision, but I've seen it done with 3D printers, and I've seen it done with hollowing out aluminum cavities that do this. I've seen weldments used to make the transmission case basically to hold these gears. But you can see from this shot the keyway there coming around as I turn it. Now, I didn't put the worm gear on purpose, and I just want to do a little test fit, and this all goes together just like that. This end of the shaft is a collar that holds everything with the right amount of in play over here, and it's adjustable, and then when you get it at the right spot, you can set it. So one bore all the way through, one size, keeps that machining operation simple. So let's go for it. We'll put this in here. I'm probably gonna have to go off screen, go to my press, come back, but let's get a feel for getting it started. And that's about as far as we're gonna go here.
Just see it in there. It's lined up just right. So what needs to happen is we need to press that ring in further and then screw this on that camera. So there's not enough threads to engage without stripping something. So the trick is
find something this size to press this the rest of the way on. And let me go look. Okay, here's a little piece of aluminum. Let's see how it fits. Whew, look at that. Perfect. Let's give it a whack or two. See how that got it on there? Now we have plenty of room for threads. And we need to leave the pins on the outside for the pin spanner. This is a little rusted. We need to find the pin spanner. Now when let me turn this around your direction. When we pull this all the way on, what ends up happening is the gear goes further this way on this keyway to where you can't even see the keyway anymore. And it centers it right in the bore, right in the middle for the worm gear, for the worm to engage this worm gear. The amount we need to go is maybe, it's this gap right here, maybe a 1/16 of an inch right there. And it looks like that's what it'll take to lower this gap down to where it was before. All right, let's get back to the other shop and tighten this up. Okay, we did our press work and I marked the teeth where the right there where the keyway is. You can just see it, there's the keyway. So we just need to make this up, pull it all together, make sure it has plenty of, just a little bit of inplay, not much, real close to zero, and we're back together on our gear. All right, it's going to be a lot easier to tighten if we go ahead and install this. So this is our direct indexing brake, and this is how it all goes together. So that's the direct indexing lock. We'll pull it back, see how it works. And what we'll do here is just keep tightening this, and we have something to tighten against. All right, so we're getting close here, and you can see I have just a little bit of in place, so I can lock the device. Give it a little bit of a turn, doesn't take much. Yeah, there's no in play, and that's turning very smoothly. There it is. And we can tighten that lock nut. There it is. Now we get to see how the worm engages the worm gear. And this is the part where we use the pen. It needs to find its home in here. So this needs to be down here pretty good. Looks like somebody's been in there before and had a hold of it. So pen comes in this side. You know, these pens can be deceptive, so measured on this side, it's 1/4 inch on this side, and it's 24 thousandths. So this is the small side. I remember tapping it through here, so this is the right. All right, so moving around a little bit, it's supposed to have this kind of action. So I think as you get your phone up here, get the flashlight effect going on. Ah, there it is. See, it goes right in. All right, and then we got a tiny bit of tapping to do. So this is totally disengaged from the worm, as you can see. And then as we move this down, yeah, we get engagement, and that's kind of riding it all the way. So I'm going to pull it back up. Now this top is very ingenious in terms of how it makes the adjustment. Let's check it out. Hold on. All right, now we're going to go ahead and give this a little lube. And this is a lubrication port right here as well as here. That it lubricates these metal to metal bushing contacts on either side. All right. And that's just silky smooth. No issues with that, but here's what I can hear. I can hear a little backlash. I'm holding this still, and this is moving. So when I tilt it down a little more, still a little backlash. Hear that? Down a little more. Yeah, I think that erased it. But you know, doing this manually is kind of difficult. I mean, doing it by feel, you know, I have no issue with that. That's easy enough to feel these differences. But this top, these 4 holes are just to secure it in place. These are to lubricate it. This one drops in this hole. This one drops right on the worm when you lubricate through these lube ports right here, like this. Oops, that's a little too much, but you get the idea. So let's put it all back together and make some micro adjustments with these two with an Allen screw, and slight amount more to put together to make it all complete again. But this is the complete gearbox, as you will, and this is what really makes it tick. And now that you know what's in it, when you're looking at worm gearboxes, and sometimes there's almost always some sort of adjustment on these for machinery too, so that as the machine wears you can make a little adjustment. So you can see this motion on this piece. It might look weird if you're taking apart your machine and you didn't know what that was for. So it's engaged but loose right here. Too much backlash. So what I think I'm going to do is just use this front one. It's just going to give us the most cantilever, and once it's in about the right spot, then I'll snug up the back one, and then we'll double check it. Now for my LS, I didn't get any that's too much. The instructions didn't really. It's that much right there. There's no instructions on how to do this. So there's a tiny bit of backlash here. Let me just give this a little bit. Yeah, I can feel it right there. There's not much. Let's tighten this. This one. Okay, now we're talking. I don't think there's much backlash in that whatsoever. And let's just run it all the way around a circle. Yeah, that feels really good. There's a brake right here, so if you tighten it too tight, right there, it'll stop everything. So I'm just going to loosen it, and it's a pretty snug fit here, so yeah, that's free. There's your brake. So these final pieces are really brass. They don't take a lot of pressure. This is spring loaded. I don't really feel like I need to take it all the way apart. I'm just going to give them a little. Let's get number 1. And I don't know if it's focused so you can see those numbers of holes on that circle.
Now clearly that's tied to the worm, and this is what you index with. And the number of holes in the plate is what this pointer registers to. So it allows you to index this around to many, many.
Way back here. That makes more sense. Ah, there we go. And then this. You can kind of adjust that spring. Get a little tension in there. That's pretty cool. And then this goes on to turn your worm gear. Now the reason it's got the big slot in it is so that you can fit it in any of these rows. Okay, so it slides in and out. Obviously this is how it works. And this is in the outer hole. Snug that, not too terribly tight. Yeah, so you can go around whatever increment you want.